So let's talk about the people who want to move to Costa Rica, El Salvador, Nicaragua, or Panama, or Guatemala, and buy land, okay? So odds are, if you've gone surfing in Central America, you have at some point fantasized about buying a cheap piece of land here and building a house, or buying a cheap house here and making a life. But the reality is, a lot of times, this can just be an unhealthy fantasy. And I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you what you need to do to figure out if buying land or buying a house in Central America is right for you. Okay? So first of all, what you've probably done is gone on a surf trip to Central America or a tourism trip, and you've stayed in a nice hotel, or even if you've stayed in a budget hotel, you've, ate out at restaurants, you've traveled around for a week or two or even a month, and you've had a great experience in Central America, and this has led you to the thought process that maybe you should think about relocating and making a life for yourself in Central America. But the reality is, if you really are serious about buying land and making a life in Central America, you should consider a few things before you even think about taking that next step. First off, what you should do is rent a house with a kitchen in the community that you are thinking about buying in, and you should stay not for a month, not for 2 months, not even for 3 months. You should stay for 6 months. And you should try to experience the place not as a tourist, but as maybe a local would, or even some sort of hybrid form. You should be, eating out less. You should be cooking for yourself, buying groceries, and living your everyday life. Because I find that a lot of people become infatuated with this idea that has been sold to them, especially by, gringo realtors in these tourist areas, that they can have their dream life in Costa Rica or Nicaragua or Panama or El Salvador or Guatemala. But they don't really take the time to realize that, it is still a life, and it's not a vacation. And when you're on vacation, things are very idealized. You're generally, you're experiencing a different type of life in Central America than you would if you were just, living here every day. I'll tell you from experience that I've been spending about almost 2 decades in Central America, for anywhere between 3 to 6 months a year, most years. Some years as few as 1 or 2 months, and some years as many as 8 months. And I have found that this place can really wear on you if you're not prepared for not only the highs of existence in Central America, but also the lows and the hardships and the realities that come crashing down once you get out of like awesome excitement vacation mode, because it's not all roses and rainbows. Like, like, it's hot, there's a storm season that everything is flooded. Okay, there's not a lot to do in most places, and even if you live in an urban place, there's other issues. There's crime that you might not be used to. There's a language barrier. Even if you speak the language, I wouldn't call it fluent Spanish, but I speak semi-fluent conversational Spanish. And even with that, I find that there's still a language barrier. There's a cultural barrier that will probably, you'll never be able to cross it. And then we can talk about other things too. We can talk about, one of the biggest things that wears on me after 2 or 3 months in Central America is the food. Yeah, the food here is delicious. It's great. It's easy to get your hands on, organic food. But the reality is, what's lacking is variety. You can only eat so much, rice and potatoes and eggs and chicken and the vegetables that you can get. And if you're from a first world, I use that term loosely, but if you're from like an industrialized Western Anglo country, you might find that, man, after a few months of eating rice and beans every day, sometimes 2 meals a day, it's gonna start to wear on you, man. Everyone here in Nicaragua, everyone who owns stuff here is like, man, we're sick of the culinary options. And they look forward to the couple months a year that they get out, just like how we North Americans look forward to the couple months a year that we can come here to Central America and surf consistent waves. A lot of the people who own here, a lot of my friends who run businesses here and own here, look forward to those slow months in the winter or in the fall when tourism's down, where they can just leave their property with caretakers and go to the United States and, like, sit in front of the AC and maybe have some McDonald's and do something other than surf. And even breaking that down, man, like, here in Nicaragua, you can surf all day, every day, right? I mean, especially here in the offshore zone, Popoyo, there are areas that break at low tide. There are areas that break at high tide. You can pretty much always catch some waves. But let's be realistic. How many hours a day can you surf? And if you're doing that for 30 days straight, if I'm surfing for 6 hours a day for 30 days straight, which is about what I've averaged in the last month, you get to a point where you're beat. Your body's tired, and it's hard to get enough calories, especially with the food that's available. And there are just things that you don't really think about when you're spending time as like even like a long-term perpetual tourist. Like a lot of people experience Central America, people come for like a 90-day visa, and even that way, even those people a lot of times are staying in hotels a lot, they're eating out a lot. But once you move here and quote unquote settle down into life here, you might find that you don't even want to eat out. Like here in Popoyo, there's only really one restaurant that I like that's affordable, and maybe I eat that once a week. But even they don't have very much variety, even though it's like American style food. Even they don't have much variety, and like I can cook the local food here, which is what we cook most days, and we don't spend any money. But just like I was saying before, man, like the culinary options are limited. You have to figure out what to do, like, to entertain yourself, and it depends on if you're an introvert or an extrovert. If you're an extrovert, people choose to socialize, but there's not even that much socialization here that's available. And if you're an introvert, like my partner and I are, we spend our days reading books and listening to audiobooks and drawing and writing, and if we weren't so introverted, this place would be really hard on us. I would definitely think this place would be really hard on us for like long-term management of time and boredom and just not, losing your mind sometimes. And people really do. Like, I've seen it. People turn to like alcohol and drugs, and like there's all that stuff's available here, and it's easy to get sucked into that life too, because the boredom is so high. And the thing about that is, once you get sucked into that life, you end up not even being able to surf because you're hungover, or you feel like crap, or you're trying to score whatever you're trying to score. And so it's just a good idea to think about these things before you dive in head first into Central America. Buy some land. Another thing to think about is, if you buy some land, and you're going to build, you've got to build, and you've got to worry about squatters. All of these countries have problems with squatters, and you got to worry about corrupt builders, and you've also got to worry about paying someone to watch your property when you're not there. And that even includes, in most places, that even includes like when you go surfing. You need to have a security guard. You need to have, a lot of people have like a gardener who also like doubles as a security guard, and they're there all the time because theft is real here, and people know what houses that foreigners own. They know the areas where foreigners own, and sometimes opportunists, they come from the cities and they want to steal. They want to, they know you've got money. They know you've got things that they could sell for like more than they make in a month or 2 months or 3 months or 6 months, depending how stupid you are and what you bring. And if you're living here long term, you're probably going to bring some stuff, and that's something you have to worry about. So that's my take on, everyone who comes here that's just like obsessed with like the idea of buying land or relocating here, or even relocating here half the year. Like, a lot of those people don't even realize what it takes to do it. And a lot of people don't even realize would be easier to just invest that money in their home country and make some profits off of it, and use those profits to just come here on vacation, and maybe even like do like what we do and come for like a long-term vacation, once or twice a year, because that is much easier than trying to make money here. I know a guy down the street who, he runs an Airbnb and he runs a food truck, and he makes enough money to live, and he might make, a couple $100 profit a month, which, is pretty decent in Nicaraguan standards. But when it comes down to it, he doesn't even have the money sometimes to, go visit his family in the US, because he literally is living on the Nicaraguan economy. And it's not the same. So you've got to really love it. And he gets really frustrated, I think, sometimes. Because, just the same thing. When you're going to go, you have to have someone to watch your property. And a lot of times you have to pay someone, or you have to find a volunteer who wants to surf and stay there long term. And even that can be problematic, because they're going to be out surfing, and when they're surfing, who's going to be watching your stuff? And, what if a water line breaks? Or what if, one of your Airbnb guests, like sets the kitchen on fire? Like, it's like, people don't think about these things, but they're all very real things that you should think about if you're going to buy land and build a house and maybe build a life in Central America. I hope everyone's liking the content. This channel's really growing. We just hit 300 subs. Thanks everyone for watching. Have you visited Central America? Have you had thoughts of buying land? What kind of fantasies have you had, and what kind of, have you bought land, and what kind of realities have you experienced associated with that people don't think about when they're, fantasizing about buying land? Hope everyone's having a good day. I'm gonna eat my bagel now. Pura vida.